Hello and welcome to the Buy, Sell, Hold Spotlight presented by Sports Car Market Magazine. I'm Darren Roberge. Before we begin, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Also be sure to join in the conversation and share your thoughts by leaving us a comment below. Our guest today is JR Amantea of GT Motorcar. Welcome back, JR.
Darren, good to see you again. Thanks for having us back.
Good to see you as well. So it's been a while since we've seen you. Why don't you kind of recap some recent news with yourself and with GT?
Yeah, so actually just got back this morning. I was racing with Ferrari over the weekend at COTA for their international GT event. So big into racing, as many people know, raced professionally before and kind of just getting back into it. So we have a couple 458 GT3 factory Michelotto cars. So we had those out for fun. So a little fun and networking over the weekend. And show-wise, it's been relatively quiet. We had the last show we were at was at Amelia Island. The next show we'll be at is Greenwich. So, we're going to take this downtime for a little bit between these shows and enjoy it because, once the summer hits, it's Greenwich, it's Pebble, the Turtle Invitational, the Bridge. There's a lot going on that back to back.
You guys covered a lot of bases in 2022, however. You attended a ton of events, you showed a ton of cars, and you brought home a ton of medal. Kind of recap 2022 and what you brought out and where you were successful.
Yeah, so what 2022 was. It felt like it was a blur. Darren, it's like as you attend these events as well. You really go from event to event to event. I feel like you just live out of a suitcase. And you come home, you unload the trailer, you reload it with more cars to go to other shows and come back and reload it, with more stuff to go to the next event. I barely have enough time to change over my clothes for the next event we're doing. So we had, last year we did the big shows, Cavallino, we did Amelia, Pebble Beach was big for us. We had, the Bugatti EB110SS Super Sport that was lost. We found it. That car won, best in the evolution of the supercar class. Also in that class was two cars that we had sold, one of our slider window F40s and then another one of our 959s. So it was great to see some clients out there, showing their cars that they acquired from us for their collection. They were excited. Unfortunately, we were all in the same class. So a little bit of, competition, if you will, but it's fun, and what else? We had cars at the Bridge, and we had the Chattanooga Motoring Festival, which is really growing a following. They do a lot for Ferrari. So we're always asked to bring cars. Last year was our second year. That show's really growing in popularity. I know this year they're doing a feature with Ferrari and with Porsche. So we did one of the tours there, which was fun. Then they go around the track that's there. So they're really pouring a lot of money into that event. So it's really good. You could really make a full-time job going out of Concours events every weekend. We try to go to the ones that are released on the East Coast, plus the big shows. But it was good. All the cars we took, they always, get an award somewhere. We pride ourselves in preparing our cars to come home with some kind of hardware. This year we kicked off at Cavallino. We had 3 cars there. And actually we worked with McPherson School with their 3 scholarship recipients that they called us to see if they could shadow us for the weekend. It was fun. It was kind of fun to pay back. I remember being a young enthusiast with my dad growing up in the Corvette world and older judges taking me under their wing. And it was fun to reciprocate. So just show them how we prepare our cars, what the judging process is like, on this side of the aisle when you're representing a car for a client. So it was good. It was a big help. I was really impressed with the students, and I think they were getting ready for their placement in their respective careers. So, we had our 288 GTO that we had sold that took home Cavallino Platinum, and it took home Greatest 8-Cylinder Award, which they only give one award for. And then our F40 took home Platinum, and so it was fun. We did some photos downtown, which you had the pleasure of editing. That was an experience as we nearly got arrested and ticketed for doing photographs on Worth Avenue in Palm Beach that didn't fly over too well with the local police. So, and they didn't appreciate my humor. So we have some photos of me with 3 police officers. That wasn't scripted by any stretch of the imagination. Believe me, my Italian side came out a little bit, but no, it was fun. The clients had a great time. The client that bought the 280 from us, it was his first time he'd ever even seen the car. And he had some family and friends in town. So not only did he get the Platinum Award, he got greatest 8-cylinder award. So we set the bar kind of high for him with that. So it was fun. But the events are great. Cavallino's a great Ferrari show. It's at the Breakers. I mean, where else do you get that kind of venue? And then we had Amelia Island. We had the Bugatti won Best Supercar. And then it was really good to see Amelia put on a class for the 959s. I feel like the 959s have kind of been, lack for a better term, the redhead stepchild. Some people know what they are, but not everybody really knows what they are. So it's about time they're getting their, some recognition in their day in the sun. I mean, it's really an evolutionary supercar, and at its time, well above and beyond any other car in its class. And it's about time they're getting some recognition. So it's we have a great one for sale. We had our red car there with 7,000 kilometers, and we had another car that was there that we had sold a year ago, 3,000 kilometers. So it was great. That show is really it's changing. Haggerty bought it. It's changing. It's morphing into its own personality. RM had its new venue, and they're going to be moving next year. So I think the auctions across the board were weak, in my opinion. A lot of it was a lack of quality, which I try to tell clients: look, when you find great cars, whether it's through us or another respective dealer, that's really a vetted and exceptional piece, you really have to transact, because if you bypass on it and you say, I'll wait for something else to come up. It's very hard today. Like, really good cars are very hard to come by. We get offered cars by the day, and a lot of times it's the same car for 8-9 months, and it's still out there. And people have passed on it, or we've had it looked at by 3 different people. And it's just very hard. It's getting harder to find good examples. And we're seeing sellers, especially in this market, kind of change their mind midway through a deal. Where you think you have a deal going, and they're like, well, because they're realizing if they go to sell that car, they can't replace it. So what are they going to do with it? Most of these individual buyers, or sellers rather, they don't need the money. So it's like, okay, if I sell this car, now what? Where do I park my money? And I can't replace the car.
Well, and these cars, we've kind of seen in 2022 where the sort of hypercar, supercar, first generation 90s cars have become mainstays in the Concours scene now, and are becoming more and more available for people to put their money in, I suppose. You guys have really become sort of synonymous with Concours level cars, like the Bugattis, which obviously did well at the Quail, Amelia, and then of course the F40s. You sold a whole bunch of F40s last year. Did you see this trend kind of continuing, or are we kind of moving down the Radwood pipeline? Is this just beginning? Like, where do you think that the 90s hypercars are in their life cycle right now?
That's a good question. I have this conversation with clients at least twice a week. I'll put it this way in layman's terms, and some of the older, I'd say over 50, listeners, subscribers will appreciate this. Where I see the 80s to call it 2000s cars, that generation of cars in that time period, is where muscle cars were in the 90s. And I know that because I grew up with muscle cars, and my dad was collecting them. I was born in 84. So I grew up around this stuff. I'm an outlier because I was around muscle cars when I was 5-6 years old. So where I see these cars, supercars, if you will, we'll call them that, okay, is where muscle cars were in the 90s. They're 30 years old. Okay, you have a couple tailwinds that are helping the market out. You have generational, where the demographic grew up with the cars as a kid in high school or college. They didn't have the means to afford them. Now they do. And, more and more buyers have gotten educated, whether it's through reading comments on Bring a Trailer, whether it's listening to your podcast, whether it's reading Sports Car Market. They're becoming very discerning, and they want top tier examples. So what I've seen is with muscle cars, it's very, Haggerty actually just did an article literally a day after I had a conversation with someone. It was ironic, where they talked about pockets of cars that have strength. And with muscle cars, we're seeing it's either a 63 split window, it's a 65 to 67 Shelby. If it's a Chevelle, it's a 70 LS6 Chevelle Super Sport. If it's a GTO, it's a Ram Air 3 or Ram Air 4. The stuff in between, I hate to say it, is kind of by the wayside. And if you have one of those examples, if you have a top tier example, it has to be documented paperwork, number one. Okay, it has to have original drivetrain. Those two things are about 66% of the value. Okay. They're each a third. That's where you see, okay. And that's why I don't put prices on my cars on my website, because a lot of the average consumers call, or they're new into the collecting world. They don't know that, why there's a gap. Why, say, for instance, 167 Corvette is 550,000 and one they watched on TV at Barrett or Macomb is 125. Where they say to me, well, both cars are black. I'm like, okay, well, the car that we have is documented, it's awarded, it's certified, it's unequivocal that it is what it is. Where the car you saw at this auction, let's pull it up together. There's no documentation. There's no awards. There's nothing to certify what it is. And by the way, it looks like it may have a reproduction trim tag.
It's got a 74 truck motor in it or something as well.
Or, you know, so it's, and then when they explain that, they're like, oh, okay, well, now I know why. So I like to engage them. Then I'll find out, okay, well, what is your goal? Are you trying to buy a car as an investment piece? Are you trying to buy a car just to drive? You know, and then we could help with their criteria. But that's why there's a big gap. And we're seeing that now, where a year ago, for instance, we'll say, Darren, where on an F40 as an example, we sold 13 or 14 F40s last year. And last year was like, you know, almost anyone bought one. We really focus on low ownership and low mileage and good service history. And we service every car before we sell it, because I don't want someone to have to buy a car and then have to go do work to it. I tell people it's like buying a suit. I don't have to go buy a suit and then have to go to the tailor. I want to buy it, get it done, and I pick it up and I can wear it. You know, I have that same mentality with our cars. I mean, I want someone to get it and they don't have to do anything to it. It's turnkey. Where, you know, a lot of other people were kind of riding our coattails on the F40 stuff as we were putting them out there, that we had bought a lot over a short period of time. Where now, you know, if you have a high mileage example, or you have something that kind of storied, sellers have to go to auction with that car, because the buyers in the private market do their homework. They want, and we're really seeing it, they want low mileage stuff, low ownership cars, preferably cars that have never been out there before, which in 2023, it's hard to find a car that's never been out there before in the public market, meaning online, in a magazine, what have you. So, we're seeing that, you know, we've definitely seen, a bit of a slowdown in volume in 23. Again, it goes back to my point. When auction houses are like struggling to get cars, it's showing you it's hard to get cars, you know. So we're kind of at an inflection point here where it's a little stagnant, because sellers are afraid to sell because they either fear they're going to miss out on more upside. Okay. Or you have sellers that say, what am I going to do with the money? Because I have, let's just say $3 million that I'm going to get for a car. What am I going to do with it? I'd rather have it sitting in the car. Okay. Because you put it in the market can get a haircut tomorrow if Jerome Powell comes out and says something. That can get shot 50%. At least the car isn't going to fluctuate and lose half of its value overnight with either a run on a bank, a bad earnings report. So the cars are stable. They provide a stable value of wealth. And we've seen that because we work with some different wealth managers as well. On the car side, for wealth management, we've had a couple of big collectors we put collections together for, we're still currently working on, that are putting collections together, Darren, for a portfolio for their kids in trust to transfer wealth.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen kind of historically how much safer the collector car market can be than more traditional ways of investing. And there are certainly investors out there that are hedging on collections and trying to really create an environment like this. But you mentioned the comparison between muscle cars and the 90s supercars, hypercars. One of the things I think that has kept the muscle car market alive for a really long time is the pop culture connections. Pop culture has embraced muscle cars in movies and video games and various other places. Do you see that kind of similar sort of thing happening with the supercars and hypercars of the 1990s, or is that kind of above that range, or how does pop culture and sort of the state of the entertainment world factor in when we're talking about this? I mean, I know there's music videos and things like that are featuring cars like this now. Is that going to be a factor in the continued value of these, or are these going to maybe be a little bit shorter lived because of that? Also, keep in mind too, we have things like the V10 cars, the LFA, the Carrera GT, things like that. They're the end of the analog era. what kind of impact is that going to have long term? And do things drop off after that?
You brought up some good points, Darren. So I don't have TikTok. We do Instagram for our company. I don't use it personally. Our son has TikTok, and I've explored stuff. And a lot of these younger people know of cars through that venue, or through iRacing, or through Gran Turismo. They get introduced to the cars. Not to digress, but to your point with the muscle car stuff, I was at Barrett-Jackson in Palm Beach 2 weeks ago, and I'll tell you, and it's been a theme the past year. You're seeing younger people buy, I don't really want to call them muscle cars, but we will, resto rods, where they have, a 62 Corvette on a, roadster shop chassis, where to me, being a purist and restoring these cars to get judged, I'm like, oh my God, the car's destroyed. There's no value. But they want the old look with new technology. And I do find younger people, very captivated by those cars. I could use them as air conditioning. It rides like a new car, but has the old look. I'll tell you what's really what I think. So Shelby, Ford's done a great job with Shelby. By them continuing the Shelby name, they've created awareness for the old cars. I mean, Gone in 60 Seconds came out in 2000 and I think 1 or 2. So 21 years old. There's kids that were born after that movie that know what an Eleanor is because of that movie. And Eleanor cars are doing anywhere from 250 to 500,000, depending on who did the build, what it has, which is, that's 65 Shelby GT 350 territory. Like no real 67 Shelbys are doing that kind of money. Not even a 66 Hertz is doing that kind of money. So again, notoriety, popularity, on the newer stuff, to your point, look, everybody knows what an F40 is. Everybody knows what a Lamborghini Countach is, a Diablo is, especially my generation that grew up with them. So those cars have had a massive run the past 18 months, if you will. The Bugattis, because the new Veyrons, the Chirons, it's created awareness to an EB 110. I mean, look, anywhere we've taken the EB, we have teenage kids that do the photographs and social media at the events coming up to us like, oh my, it's an EB 110 SS. And like, wow, how do you even know what that is? Just, there's not many. There's 29 cars. So, you're lucky to see one in a year. But, to your point there with, the analog stuff, people are understanding they're not making any more analog cars. I think you just had this conversation yesterday with a friend of mine that does work on cars. You can't even get a car with a manual transmission today, except I think a Mustang. I don't even know if you can get a BMW with a manual transmission. Oh, and the Cadillac, the
Blackwing thing.
Blackwing.
Yeah.
I think that's it. And it may be hard to even special order that. So that's where any manual transmission cars you see, like, they bring a big premium over any of the paddle shift cars, where when the paddle shift cars first came out in the late 90s, early 2000s, everybody wanted paddle shift because it was latest and greatest technology. Where now people say, oh, I want the analog, manual shift, whether it's a 599, a 430, Porsche's done a great job. The 911R was supposed to be the last manual transmission car. Well, they got such demand, hence the GT3 Touring came out. So they've done a great job. People are doing it. So I think some of these marks, are creating awareness. I think really the C8 Corvette, people will look back now. The C8 saved Corvette because the C7 was getting long in the tooth. Let's face it, we've all seen the GIF with the typical Corvette owner. Jean shorts and Velcro sneakers, right? I attended Carlisle pretty much my entire life. And that's what you saw there. But the C8 Corvette has really taken a lot of business from McLaren, Aston. You could buy a Z06 for, call it 150, 170,000. You're going to pay double that for anything else. And guess what? A year from then, you're going to lose 30, 40% of your money. You look at a lot of these, and I follow some of these people just to see the demographic and kind of get a lead where the market's kind of heading in the future. A lot of these younger people that would have never had a Corvette before have a Corvette. And what it's done is it's created awareness to some of the older Corvettes. For instance, a 63 Corvette. You can mention you bought a Corvette to anybody there, especially an older car. Someone that's not even a car person, you could say, oh, I bought a 72 Corvette. They don't know Corvettes. They don't even know what year a split window came out in. But the first question out of their mouth is it a split window? So it's creating awareness, which is good, and you could look at bring a trailer. I mean, the average 63 Corvette coupe is bringing 250,000, which 2 to 3 years ago, that was the price for a fully restored Fuelie coupe, which that car is now 350 to 400,000 plus. So, the analog cars people are paying attention to. You mentioned the LSA, those cars, they were not even on my radar screen and my purview a couple of years ago, but it's like they've had such a massive run because of what they are. Maybe due to the Fast and Furious movies, but you have a lot of younger people, after those cars. And we're even getting calls from older clients that would have never even considered that car for their collection, but because they have kids or grandkids that like those cars, oh, we should put one in the collection. So, then I get the question, where do I use it? With the electrification push being on, there's so many things, but that's why, we have a lot of clients that belong to these country club racetracks, that you will, and they're building them everywhere. They just finished the Motor Enclave in Tampa that a client of ours is a partner in, and they're all sold out. They're building a new one in West Palm Beach, which that'll be our new home, and that'll be exciting to be a part of. But so you're finding a place where people want to have a safe venue to drive these cars, because you know what, Darren, it's getting. I mean, let's face it, you drive a regular car on the road, but between cell phone use, young kids driving, these cars are so valuable that it's really dangerous to drive them on the road. But you're also seeing a lot of these tours and rallies, the people put on private events, tours for specific marques or models that people put up, and people like using them.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing too to kind of factor in is that these country club situations could ultimately wind up being sort of islands for fuel availability. So if somebody doesn't want to drive, their Carrera GT or whatever on the street and they can't get gas for it, now all of a sudden these country clubs offer an opportunity where you can put a gas station in one of those if you want to, and you can pay to have that stuff shipped in, and you can continue to use your gas powered car in a manner that you see fit and enjoy it the way that it's meant to be enjoyed, for sure.
Absolutely.
And I think too, probably you're looking at a situation where once the electric sort of thing takes over, now we're talking even bigger premium. And you were right with the Shelby thing and the Hellcats and the Camaros too, to a certain degree. That's the last generation of these types of cars before everything goes electric. So, I mean, the collectability and the future of this marketplace is ultimately pretty strong, because there's going to be that nostalgia for another 25 years of people that remember those cars and are ready and willing and able, when they can afford them, to plop down the money it takes to buy them and enjoy them. So let's shift gears a little bit here. Let's talk about some of the inventory that you have currently. You guys always have amazing stuff. So why don't you kind of give us a list of what's in stock currently at GT?
Yeah. So we have stuff advertised and not advertised. We have a great 959. A 3-owner example, 7,000 kilometers. We just had the car serviced at Road Scholars. They're a great Porsche shop in North Carolina. They've won Pebble Beach the past few years. Cam's father unfortunately just passed away. Bob was a staple in the collector car world, and one of the great monuments in the collectors, and always nice, great Porsche collector. Had an amazing personal collection. When I see Cam, I see my dad and I mean, it's, it got me into collector cars. I was a young kid, and, Cam's got a great operation, great team down there. So we had our 959 just serviced there and shipped to Amelia. We have a black 67 435 Corvette that's the top of the heap. The only car that would be up from there would be an LED. It's one of 24 documented, black 435 coupes. We bought it from the original, from the father and son, the second owners. Yeah, they owned it since 1988. We bought their whole collection a couple of years ago. We just got done doing a full frame off on the car, complete frame off restoration, pull the body off, pull the frame, do the frame over, rebuild all the suspension components. So we do everything in house except the paint and body work. And car got NCR's top flight. So that car is a real 20,000 mile documented example. And that's a great piece. So, but again, that's not for everybody, but it's, they want investment grade, 67 Corvette. That's as good as it gets. We have a couple other supercars. We just bought a 92 F40 with 700 kilometers that belonged to the Saudi royal family. and then it went to a big collector in Japan. We acquired that car, flew that car here, and by the time it touched down, I think within 2 hours of it touching down, we had it sold. So for a world record. So deals are still getting done, but again, it's discerning. And that car I knew was going to be irreplaceable. So we made a couple phone calls to some in-house clients and people that called us for that type of vehicle. And one guy, for our first phone call, he was a little hesitant. I said, okay, well, I'm going to call a second client and I'll call you back if anything changes. And the second client said, I'll take it. If you say it's good, it's good. So we're just servicing that car in-house, and we're getting that car ready for the judging circuit. So that'll be at Cavallino in January. So, it's the last year. It had low ownership and it had a really low mileage. It's probably in the top 1% of our 40s, if you will. So that's what we're seeing there. And it's really, again, buyers are they're patient. These collectors that have money, that want to build collections and are serious about their collection. We have guys trading out of higher mileage stuff to lower mileage stuff, but again, it has to meet their criteria. If they're going to make that upgrade, the car has to be this much better. So, it makes our job, any professional in our industry, whether it's me or someone else in our industry, it makes it that much harder to decipher and weed through the cars, because we get offered cars by the day and you're just weeding through them. It's a challenging environment, and especially when you're buying cars out of country, there's a lot of moving pieces and factors that may swing prices in one direction or the other, with FX rates, shipping rates. So there's a lot of one day the price is here and the next day the price could be here or here. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and just it'll be nice when we're through this cycle. I think we're in for a little bit of a ride, especially with the presidential election, and the Federal Reserve. We got, I think we probably have another 25 basis point interest rate increase coming. We've had, the past, since 2010, Darren, the money supply has increased by 163%, and people are wondering why we have rampant inflation. So, I can go on about economics for days here, as my former background was on Wall Street and banking and mergers and acquisitions. So I take a different approach to my business and my clients that we manage collections for. So I look at a lot of external factors that influence car prices and the car market. And what I've really seen, again, is just this massive shift from, let's just find this car, to no, let's find cars that are in this box right here, and it's challenging. It's challenging to find new inventory, so it's, that's why, look, you like to negotiate with someone, but, it's, and you give them a fair deal, but, where buyers before could have made an offer to anybody, and if you didn't have a car, another guy on the road had a car, where it's like, if they don't want to pay the price, you can't just go replace that car today. It's irreplaceable. So, we stick to our pricing, and it's hard to find good cars. So,
well, I mean, it goes back to the sort of the standards of this hobby in general, that number one, quality is king. And number two, when you find a quality car, you can't let it go, because you're probably not going to find another one. I mean, these cars disappear into collections and they go away. You bring up an interesting point about bringing cars in from outside the U.S. Have you noticed any difference in desirability between sort of USDM examples or cars that you have to bring in from, say, Saudi Arabia or Japan?
Yeah, you know what, Darren, I'll tell you, it's interesting. So, it's like, again, good point. I can go on for a couple of hours about this conversation. It's before clients especially new clients, were a little hesitant of buying a car from overseas. If they hired us to source them a car, it's like, you're sending money to a place that, it's overseas. Have you met them? So, we have a process and procedure in place, that we abide by, whether we're buying it for ourselves or on behalf of a client. And if someone doesn't want, and if our counterparty on the other side doesn't want to abide by that, then unfortunately we pass or go on to the next one. So, we have that in place, but people are more open to it now. Now, if you want to talk about, valuations, if you want to say F40s, like previously, I'd say prior to last year, US F40s had a big premium over non-US F40s, because they only made 213 of them. and collectors in the U.S. are very numerical based on data. So they made fewer examples of this model, so we should I only want that model. But guys are being more open now to Euro cars, especially as more Euro cars have come here to the U.S. And they like the aesthetics of them better, the seats better, on the F40 example, So yes, people are more open to them. But, it's pretty easy logistically. I mean, we use car shipping. I think you had Rob and Grove on a few weeks ago. We use them. They make things very easy to bring cars in from, whether it's Japan, from Hong Kong, from the Middle East, from Europe. So they had that really dialed in. So they make that's a big key, because we've used other shippers before and it's been very cumbersome and not a pleasurable experience. So, that's a big part of it. But most of the cars we buy are from out of the US. So we have that pretty dialed in.
Okay, JR, you take a numbers approach to this business that not too many other folks do, and you're certainly a worldly guy that's around kind of doing everything all the time. So why don't you give us one car to buy, one car to sell, and one car to hold in today's marketplace?
All right, so we are going to recommend to buy Maserati MC12. They made less than 50 road cars, has great ties to racing, pretty much clean house in GT1. So that's our buy, the MC12. The sell, we're going to say the new Ford GT is a sell. They've come off restriction. Each print price is getting lower and lower. And I'd recommend to the owners that bought them new, it's sticker, to sell them now while they're making a profit. Because a lot of those are coming out, and you just watch Springer Trailer. There's 2 to 3 a day coming on, and that market's going to continue to trend lower. The hold, we're going to say an E30 and E46 M3. Those cars have they had a big run up the past 2-3 years, and they've definitely plateaued, and prices seem to be flat. I think everybody that wanted one got one, and you're seeing those kind of you're seeing higher mileage, mediocre cars come out, and they're kind of going lower.
That's a fun car to play with too. I mean, they're very easy to live with, very easy to drive.
Yes. So
say that you're a Ford GT owner and you've kind of bowed to Ford's will for the past couple of years. What do you think you should sell your GT for?
Darren, I mean, it's I would say depending. I mean, if it's a carbon car, if it's a heritage cars are bringing a big premium. They're bringing anywhere from 1.3 to 1.5. If it's a non-heritage car, even carbon cars, they're anywhere from 800 to $1 million. So all mileage dependent. So I would say if you're in the black, take your profits and go on to the next car if you're looking to sell.
Yeah, definitely makes sense for sure. So now say that you're looking for a bargain Maserati. What, you got any hope there, or are you expecting to pay what for one of those?
Those cars have been, they're similar to the Enzo. Everybody was racing for an Enzo before, which those cars are, I could have said either one, an MC12 or an Enzo. They're both great cars, but the MC12, being that they made less than 50 road cars, they made a short and long version. They're, a couple of years ago, you couldn't give them away, but, now people are realizing what they are. And they're anywhere from, 3.5 to 5 million, depending on the mileage. So, in the condition, but they're a great car. Look, you have Porsche GT1s up at 15 million. You have McLaren F1s up at 30 million. You have CLK GTRs at 12 million plus. There's no reason MC12 won't be in that range in the next, I'd say, 5 to 8 years.
Yeah, the exclusivity is definitely there. The performance is there. The appearance is there. The sound is definitely there. I mean, they are kind of the whole package for sure. And any final thoughts?
No, that's it. It's going to be an interesting year. I think you're going to see the theme this year is going to be, it's not like a broker record. The theme this year is going to be pedigree, low mileage, low ownership, and no stories. No issues with the car, and you're going to see those examples outpace the other market, but for years to come.
And where can people go to learn more?
People can find us on Instagram. We're on our website, gtmotorcarsllc.com. And we are in the process of officially relocating to West Palm Beach as of last Monday. So we're getting out of the Northeast and heading south.
Much better weather, exciting move indeed. I would like to thank JR Amantea for joining us today. To learn more about anything that we discussed here, be sure to pick up the latest issue of Sports Car Market Magazine by visiting the link in the video description down below. As a reminder, if you enjoyed this content, please take a moment to like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay on top of future episodes. I'm Darren Roberge, and thank you for joining us on the Buy, Sell, Hold Spotlight.